go Tene ta kasen drink ngadu chala tanda ngandro tumo main pe ngandro ye de ta jamro ta semji tene tiji so tanda doji sempe gamde la tene dipa hyapa tiji so tene mandran borwa la tene sonam je so sapa 대지에서 라면 난줄 건발라테네 신랍 렘바 데 넘버 예데 휴바레라 데네 다 대지에서 다 감다나라 투몽 근로 로도 넘버 예데 땡요레 다 대야 제르도 단다 네란 잔소다 주군줍수 라소발라 데네 조 동보 투몽 근로 예 tene teji su tumo mayin pengen roke te ten yore te ina ya tanda ta tanda marik nasir ke na la tombo tumo mayin pengen roke te nyam su long ne tene teji su la tumo pengen roke te gombe menga te ten na yore.
Yesterday and this morning, Rinpoche explained the four special preliminary practices, and so the practice of going for refuge and generating the mind of enlightenment. And then also how through the method of the meditation on Vajrasattva, how to purify one's own misdeeds and obscurations. And then on the basis of the meditation on the mandala, how to accumulate great accumulations of merit. And then through the meditation of the Guru Yoga, how to receive the blessings. And so these were described yesterday and this morning. And now here we will next discuss the common preliminary practices. In the other texts by Wangchuk Dorje, the Ocean of the True Meaning, the Ocean of Definitive Meaning, and also the Pointing Out the Dharma Body, in those texts, first the common preliminaries are taught, and then following that, the special preliminaries are taught. But in this text, Eliminating the Darkness of Ignorance, it is taught that first you meditate upon the special preliminaries, and then having meditated upon them, meditate upon the common preliminaries.
Tene tateya tumonga ngandro yibo tela ngaransu main lodo namba ye sungi yorela. Tene lo te tanda chitanga ta ngaransu je njiting shawada chu main becho la lo te hyukchimbun rogo yore. Tela mubata tela toanda bo yorela. Tene tambe chu la ta kalbatang temba nambanda bore mato lo la hira rotugi yo mare la tini te hindu pangbare tang aranchu tenda ngoma la kare gugi yo resena tambi chue la lo ya boje ro na tini te la tini rangin kangala pembata tini rang susu yin yo jewa ndada jewa chima kangala 펜토 쳔보 용기요라 딘로 마드나 드니 디게 펜바데 용기요 마레 드니 준신 디처나 인지 민지 당아란초 지팅게 자와라 로히바텔레 담베 추게 초라 론죽투바데 갈체게 요라라 디긴 켜와데 디힌도 드니 디체 준신데 단든데 세는 모트나 보지세 데라성로 양세 땅나 드니 랑hin게 담비출라 로문주 탑메 반다 보지 용게 요래라 드니 준신 티처나 데라 로도 넘바 예 숨게 요래.
These four common preliminaries are often called the four thoughts that turn the mind. And so when we talk about that, usually our minds go towards worldly things. They go to the activities of the world, the things that we need to do. And we feel that we need to pay a lot of attention and turn our minds towards the activities of this world in order to be in this world. And so there we get excited and interested about the activities of the world. And normally also our minds are not particularly interested in the Dharma. They don't really go towards the Dharma all that much. And we don't really think about it that much. We think it's really not all that necessary to think about the Dharma. And yet actually it is the opposite of that. Actually there is not a whole lot of benefit about going Actually, there is not a whole lot of benefit if our minds just go towards the worldly affairs. Rather, it is more important for our minds to turn towards the Dharma, to think about the Dharma, to consider the Dharma, to want to practice the Dharma. And if we can think about it in that way, if we can consider the important and be the Dharma important and want to practice the Dharma, then then there will be great benefits for that. And so it is very important that we do this. And so we need to turn our minds away from all of the worldly affairs, all of the worldly things that distract us, and turn them to the Dharma. And so, in order to do this, we meditate upon these four thoughts that turn the mind. Because if we meditate upon them and think about them over and over and over again, then our minds will naturally turn towards the Dharma.
Tene ta te ya kirdu lodu namba ya ta te no ne mutapa gamba te pe kalche warela. Tene te ya mutapa gamba la tene kirdu che ta tanda jitin di no andala njurwa mangbo yeba mutapa yimba te la samwa tana tangbo semba chohlangen rabo che yungi yore. Yungi yore te yinaya te la tene pentu chenpo yungi yore la. Tene te ya sanji chi song na, tene matapa gamba la, tene pen sum. Tangpuru chu la kulwe, jen si, tangpo tangpi chu la kulne, tene tangpi chu la hirab madrin, tangpi chu la mupa te tsam mena ya, tene matapa gamba la tene tangpi chu la tepa ta, tangpi chu la chuan chuan, bichirna, tangpuru chu la kulwe, jen si, Bharata Tsendu Sukulwe Jasi, Tene Tangpo Chugo La Hyo, Chue de Yapon Dosone, Tepa Tongmu Jena Ya, Tene Bharata La Tsendu Tezan Matopa, Tene Tate Lelon Rabo Onto Hyonroa Tende Yang Yungre La, Te Chung Kapsula Kari Pemba Yungre Sena, Tene Lodo Nomba Yeta, Te Nani Mixal to Matopat La Somotana, Tene Tsendu Mepa La Tsendu Yepa Yungre.
The first of these four common preliminaries is the contemplation of impermanence, and this is a contemplation that is really quite important. And the reason that it is important is that in the way the things appear to us, there is a lot of change. And we consider this change. We consider that everything is changeable, impermanent, that there is nothing stable. And when we meditate upon this, then at first our minds get a little bit discouraged or a little bit depressed. And so our minds do get discouraged and depressed when we meditate upon impermanence, but there is a reason for that. And the reason is, as the Lord Buddha himself said, there are three benefits to meditating upon impermanence. And the first of these benefits of meditating upon impermanence is that at first it is the condition that encourages us to meditate upon the Dharma. And so we think about impermanence. We consider the changeable and impermanent nature of everything. We consider death, and then we naturally want to begin to practice. We want to begin to practice the Dharma. It encourages us to enter the Dharma practice. And so in this way, meditating upon impermanence is the condition that encourages us to practice the Dharma. And then in the middle, it is like the iron rod that spurs us to diligence. Sometimes after we have entered the gate of Dharma, we may want to practice Dharma, but occasionally we lose ourselves to laziness. We don't have that much diligence. We aren't able to motivate ourselves to practice. And so when we lose ourselves to laziness in that way, what we need to do is, in general, meditate upon the four thoughts that turn the mind. But in particular, we need to meditate upon impermanence. And by meditating on impermanence and death and impermanence, then we will be able to reinvigorate our Dharma practice. We will be able to come back to our Dharma practice, be able to practice again. We will generate diligence and overcome the fault of laziness.
Tene ta te tabo tangpo chula mupa mepa la chula mupa yepa se. Tene Bharata Tsendu mepa la Tsendu yepa se na. Ta tiki pento rabo kari yungi yaware se na. Tene pento te nguni taman rebu topa to se. Tene ta te tabo nyamlin se Tsendu se pen rebu la. Tene ngaran je nguni tambi chudu pen rebu te lakpa la lepto yungandabo. Yungi yaware la. Tene junsin teacher na matapa ganggu yaware la. Tene junsin teacher na tanda jetsin malari pen gorga nani samna yang tene ngan chiwe nje ne rala chen ta ne chimi che chen sa sen se tangpo tene chiwa la te se tra ne tene embrella gom japa la pepa yen la tene ti gom te jat ne tin drebo la kari yunga yuwa se na tan chena yang tra ma gopa nje ma gopa tene chen san rapo te sen song te jitra tan je ma gopa chong song ne tene pemba te tabo drupa la song yuwa la junsin teacher na ngaran so ta che tang ke tambe chu drupa thoma la ngandro lodo namba ye gong gu ge ya pata te na ne mixal to tene mata pa gong gu ge yuwa
And so this is the practice of this. If we do not have any interest in practicing the Dharma, meditating upon impermanence gives us interest in it. If we are not diligent about practicing the Dharma, then it makes us diligent. And so, what is the result of this? The result of this is that finally, impermanence is like the companion to attaining the result. And so because of entering the gate of the Dharma, becoming interested in the Dharma, and practicing the Dharma, and being diligent, we attain the result of practicing the Dharma. It is like it comes into our hands naturally that we attain the result of the practicing the Dharma. And so that is why we need to meditate upon impermanence. This is, as the Lord Milarepa said in one of his songs. He said that out of the fear of death, I went to the mountains to meditate, and now I have arrived at the place where there is no fear of death. And so here he is saying that first he thought about impermanence, he thought about death, and out of the fear of that, he went to a solitary place in the mountains and he meditated. He was diligent about his meditation. And as a result of that meditation, what was the result that he attained? He attained the result of being able to, the result that is free of the fear of death. He came to a place that was free of death, that was free of the fear of death. There was no longer any need to have any fear of death at all. And so this is the benefit of meditating upon impermanence. And so for these reasons, it is important for us to meditate upon the four thoughts that turn the mind in general. And it is particularly important to meditate upon impermanence.
Tene ta tela yang ngaranso chuji bakangala jitang kalwa zampuche ne tambur chuji golan juk thup yo la tene tambur chuji golan juk thup yo na ya kapkala tene tanda je tene chuela tezam ge zenju shi mo panda bota tene chuela tezam juk mo panda bota tene yungi yo la ta tela pembe tap kari gugri se na tene matapa gong yo re matapa te gomba te ta matapa main pa che la matapa yin som ne gom de panda boje main pa lu zu de pata boje main pa nguni tambe chue te nyam su len gu pe jun sen te tangaran su matapa yin ba la tene jung yo re la tene matapa yin ba te si jin ro yo kapkala matapa yin ba te train tu yo ma re la tene te ta tambe chue ke mengal la tene matapa yin ba train matapa yin ba gom na tene matapa yin ba te tong matapa yinpa di hi matapa yinpa di hi ne tene tambi chu te kal chewa yinpa ten di hi ne tambi chu te nyamsu len taba yungi yo re la tene junsin teacher na ngarang so jay tambi chu la zun ru te zang matapa lelo jewe kab la tene matapa gongji te tombo yang gongji kal chege re la bhardo yung te zun ru peli ya te la matapa gongji te kal chege yo re.
We are all very fortunate to have this ability to have entered the gates of the Dharma. But even though we are this fortunate to be able to enter the gate of the Dharma, sometimes we aren't all that able. Sometimes you're not able to be all that diligent. Sometimes we get a little bit lazy. Sometimes it feels like we aren't really able to engage in the Dharma, and so. At times when we do get lazy like this, when we do feel like we are unable to practice, at times like this it is important that we meditate upon impermanence. And when we meditate upon impermanence, it is not that we are meditating on things that are not impermanent as if they were, or that we are making something up with our minds, so that we're fabricating something in our minds. Rather, this is a case that this is the way things are. Things are impermanent. This is a case upon meditating on things that are impermanent as they are, as being impermanent. This is not something that we need to make up with our minds. It is just the way things actually are. But sometimes we can't remember that. Sometimes we have difficulty remembering that, and so when we can't remember it and forget it, then we aren't able to think about it, and we're not able to practice, and we get lazy. And so it is important that we then remember it. And so if we consider this and remember it, then we will remember. And so if we contemplate impermanence, we will remember that all things are impermanent. And then we will be able to meditate upon all things being impermanent. And then we will see that all things are impermanent, and we will know that all things are impermanent. And from seeing and knowing that all things are impermanent, we will be permanent. We will see how important Dharma is, and we will remember the Dharma, and we will know how to practice the Dharma, know that we will need to practice the Dharma. And for that reason, we will no longer lose ourselves to laziness. We will be able to overcome any bit of laziness. And so, for this reason, at first, the meditation on impermanence is important because it helps us enter the gate of the Dharma. And in the middle, it is important because it helps us increase and improve our diligence and so for this reason it is extremely important.
Tene tatela yang matapa gombe kapsala chitang matapa la number ni yore la tawa kechi ki matapa ta rakpa jenji matapa se number ni yore tawa kechi ki matapa se jude ta hep to ta chi se na tene yen tung nang upo kanga ponjur to ne ta chitang rakpa nda ponjur ndo yore la di rakpa de hipala ponjur ndo wala somo ta na tene yen tung nang ponjur ndo ne rimbe njurwa te kanga la njurwa sem la njurwa te we ya ba lu la njurwa te we ya ba upo zu tin pa la che ne jin ji ten la njurwa te we ya ba no che ji sen tin la njurwa te we ya ba ta tende ma ta pa gong ge ore la tene terawada ga lu so ri na matapa gombe kasala tawa kechi ki matapa te gomge yore kechi ki kande ponjur tangkanto gomne tene tela tene da me pata tene tela tene matapa dung harwa yimba la sopa gomge yore te terawada ka lusorela te mengo je re te ina ngaran so songo doji tipelo la te tanda neka la tawa kechi ki matapa te gongi yo mare ona kare gongi yo re sena rakwa jinji matapa sekrela rakwa jinji matapa sena tene tanda kechi ki ponjur shegi ya pate pa ya tene ta ngaran so ta chitang kanga tama tene hek dogi ya pa tene tanda matapa njurn dogi ya pa ta tende ngu potenzo njurwala rakpa jinji matapa te gongi yore la gongi yore.
When we meditate upon impermanence, there are two types of impermanence that we meditate upon. The first of these is subtle impermanence, and the second is coarse impermanence. The first of these, subtle impermanence, is if you look at things in a very, very fine way, you see that everything is constantly changing and just a really short time. So this changing, always in every moment by moment, everything is always changing. And so if you look at your mind, it is changing moment by moment by moment by moment. And if you look at your body, it is changing moment by moment by moment by moment by moment. All of the external things around you are changing moment by moment by moment by moment by moment. And the entire world around you is also changing moment by moment by moment by moment by moment. And so in this way, the entire world, everything is changing very quickly in this way. And this is over a long period of time, everything is impermanent in a coarse way. But if you analyze that very finely, you see that it is made up of changes that happen moment by moment by moment by moment by moment. And so when they meditate upon impermanence in the Theravada tradition, then they meditate upon this subtle impermanence and how everything changes from moment to moment to moment. They meditate upon this in order to realize that all things are selfless, in order to realize that all things are impermanent and suffering. And so this is the main reason that they meditate upon this type of impermanence in the Theravada tradition. But we, in the secret mantra Vajrayana tradition, meditate on it a little bit differently. Rather than meditating upon the subtle impermanence, we meditate upon what we call the coarse impermanence of the continuum. And so this coarse impermanence of the continuum is just knowing that, is just putting the subtle impermanence aside and not worrying about, but knowing that in the end, we ourselves are going to be destroyed. Everything in this world is going to change. And so we meditate upon this coarse aspect of impermanence.
Tene ta te na ne ja mixal to ta ngaran so mesendala ta yen rimbo hachang yen rimbo me pa perna rubalnda bochi na los jazam to yo arete yena yo melu ke te cha ne thop yo mare la te yendo tene maung pa la jorwa thebgi ya pa te ten ten ra me pa khandi ri ten ten ra me pa temporan me pa nda bochi ya pa te la gomne song tang ge wa la tene junsin teacher na Theravada gom jing ngui yin ra ma ta pa la gomne tene gom jing ngui ji te gom ge wa re ngaran so song ho doje ti pe lo la ma ta pa gom ba te gom jing ngui gi la gom ge wa ma re ne ka ngendu gi chu la tene te lelo pongzi gi nyembo ta bo ta tendu su kulzi gi nyembo ta bo che la tene ma ta pa te gom ne chu la kulma se pe chu la lo njru gi tap nda bo ta chu la tendu su kul tap che la gom ge wa re la junsin teacher na tene ma ta pa gom ba te tang bo ngendro la gom ge wa re ta ti leo tanda chu ting ko on se na nga ba re.
If we think about our human lives, they do not last for all that long. We are not sure how long they'll last, but they do not last very long. In comparison to some animals, like a tortoise, for example, a tortoise can live up to 300 years, but human lives do not last that long. And the human life is something that in the end, it's going to change, and we don't really know when it's going to happen. It's something that's not at all certain. It's not at all known when we are going to die. And so this is uncertain, it's unknown. So in the Theravada tradition, when they meditate upon impermanence, they meditated upon it as their actual practice. This is the main practice that they do, is to meditate upon impermanence. However, we in the secret mantra Vajrayana tradition do not meditate upon it as our actual practice or our main practice, but rather as one of the preliminary practices. We meditated on it as a preliminary in order to discard or get rid of any laziness, and in order to increase our diligence. And so this meditation upon the coarse impermanence is something that is a method to encourage us or to urge us into being more diligent about our Dharma practice. And so that is the meditation on impermanence. And of the sessions, or the Dharma sessions or chapters, of the sessions of this text, this is the 5th session.
Tene ta te jeso ta tanda ngondolodu namba yega ondo sena nipa. Tene ta tanda ngoni mal ngonduge tege ondo sena tupa te legende ke nam jorela. Tene legende te chitange hipate pe kalchewa. Tene kalchewa imbe junsen de kandire sena tene chitanga ta ngaranso le junde la tene yapoche hina tene te pento chembo yorela tene te junsen ya ngaranso ta che dewa top gugi yapa deji da den gugi yapa rela tene te la dewa top ge tap yorbe sena ta ngaranso jitin ge chawe ondo sena dewa top tap 망보 레가 망보시 망보시기 요래데 있나야데 제시나 대화 토기 요래라 제시나 디 대화 토기 요 말해 당연히 시나 알아서 대화 토픽 탑 요래베시나 대화 토픽 탑 요래 드니티 대위기 조디 랑게 개와서 발라테네 드니 대화데 토기 요래라 티처나 드니 대화 토픽이 조 개위자와 싸바다 tene ngaranso kande gagi yo mare sena dunghalte gagi yo mare la dunghalte pangu yo are dunghalte pangwar sepa la yo dunghalte pang thu yo are besena dunghalte pang thu yo are kande se pang thu yo are sena ngaranso dunghal ke jote tene ngaranso sop dipa mege ware la dipa mege wa yin besena te pang na tene dunghalte pang thu yo are la junsin teacher na tene ge tati legende ke nonga hipati pe kalchempore.
The second of the common preliminaries is the contemplation of karma, cause, and effect. So this is the second of the common, and in terms of all of the preliminaries, it is the 6th. So the second here is the of the common preliminaries is the contemplation of karma, cause, and effect. And this contemplation of karma, cause, and effect is very important. The reason that that it is very important is that based upon it, there are great benefits. Generally, what we want is to be able to be happy, and we want to be free of suffering. And so we need to be free, and we need to find a way to be happy and a way to be free of suffering. And so you might wonder, is there a way that we can be happy and a way that we can be free of suffering? And the answer is yes, there is a way. There is a way that we can be happy. But if we just think that it is because of the work that we do, if we do work that'll make us happy, maybe that'll make us happy, but maybe it won't make us happy. But there is a method that will definitely make us happy, and that is to know what the cause of happiness is. And if we have the cause of happiness, then we will then be happy. And so the cause of happiness is to accumulate merit, is to accumulate the roots of merit. And so if we do virtuous things, then based upon that, in the future they will ripen as happy results. And so if we have this cause of accumulating the roots of virtue, then in the future we will be happy. Likewise, we want to be able to get rid of all of our suffering. And so is there a way to get rid of our suffering? There is also a way to do that. We can get rid of our suffering. And the way we can get rid of our suffering is by getting rid of the cause of suffering. And the cause of suffering is non-virtuous misdeeds. So if we give up non-virtuous misdeeds, then we will also be able to, in the future, get rid of the suffering that would have come from those. And so for that reason, knowing this and contemplating this karma, cause, and effect, is quite important.
Tene Tateyang Ransu Somsula, Tene Leri Sedu Juya Mepandabojela. Tene Pe Juya Mepandavoji Kogi or Dina and Temare, Le Sinkite, Tene Ranki Sakparella, Tene Ranki Sodam, Masoti, Naran Rawang Yore, Rawang Yodu Tela, Tene Le, Tene Gewala, Tene Devato Yorel, Devatopic each other, Gewasajitela, Naransol Rawang Yore. Tejendo tene dungal ge jodi dipa megewadela dipa megewa sopatia tene te soda masa rawang yorela tene dipa megewa de maso dipa megewa de pangna tene ngaranso mahompala dungal nyoma guba nang chi tugi yorela tene junsin teacher na legend de na ga hipate pe kalchimbo ta pento chimbo re.
The way we normally think, it sounds like karma is something that we can't really change. We have our karma and we can't do anything about it. And so we think that way, but that's actually not how it is. Actually, we have a lot of freedom, or we have a lot of control over our karma. And the reason for that is if we want to be happy, we have the control to be able to accumulate the cause of happiness, to do good, virtuous things. And we have the ability to do that. It is within our control. And so if we do that, then we will be happy. And so we have this control. Likewise, we want to be free of suffering. And in order to be free of suffering, we need to give up the causes of suffering. And we also have the power to do that, or the power or the control to give up that suffering. And if we do give up the cause of suffering, the non-virtuous misdeeds, if we give that up, then in the future we will not experience that suffering. We will not need to experience that suffering. And so for that reason, we have this control, and this is very important. So this is why it is so important to contemplate cause and effect.
Tene ta tela ya chitang lela number 2 yorela number 2 bo de kandere se na sempa yijele don somba lungok le ni sung yorela sempa yijele se na tene nguso luda ngoda longje ge tendo je malepa sem ge somba tabu go ne le so pa je la go ge 다 되게 셈바티게 송로 약보제 땅 야나 셈바티게 송로 두보제 땅나 다 되게 레 장보 땅 멤버 사기 와라 데라 셈바 이질레 셈지다네 소바 대체는 알아서 다제 셈바 셈지 근홍데 두당 넘버 준도 생라 따지세데 근홍 멤버다보다 내 셈다보다 마지 펜셈동 셈바장보다 두준도 땅나 드니 데라 고바침보여 바제다 드니 니바데 셈바 룽어글레 숭게 와라 다 디게 셈데 셈게 셈네 드니 가리 용게 와라세나 드니 셈바 디 셈바데 룽어글데 저레웅게 와라 드니 야나 류게데니 샤와드 야나 ngog데니 샤와드 드니 용게 와라 드니 데라 다디 게메기 니가 용게 와라 드니 데라 넘바 다단다 솜발룽어글레데 넘바 2 드니 셈바 이질레라야 지탕게 온드세나 넘바 솜 드니 게와 미게와 루마테 넘바 솜 요라 Tene kapkala somba zangbo, pensemdan demba, jamba, ninje, tene tepa, mugu, lasopa, tene cheprato, papa, rangin, kanga la pembege, kulung number tapa yungi yoharela, tene te semba hijile gewa. 다 tene kapkala, tene ngaranso semba hijile migewa yungi yoharela. Tene migewa te, tene chitanga te yena, nesem, dangsem, yedang, chakdo, ngajal laso pa nyemo pala tene, tene yena, nepa chande kulong nyamba tene yungi yoharela. Tela, tene semba hijile migewa re. Tene ta tela Tige pardu nepatela lumaten sumbiwarela. Lumaten bate tenita gewayong mai, megewayong mai, samba zangboyong mai, samba ngembayong mai ba. Tapena pachu te rogugudu samba dabo, kalaji sagugudu samba dabo. Ta tinde lumaten biwarela. Tini tige na ne, tini gewe ge chu te ngaranchol pa jur. Megewe chu de pang chirop si tene luma tenji chu de pen toba yo na ya no toba yo na pang ta tende si ne nyam ne se na be ya bu yung yo re.
There are two different types of karma. And these two types of karma are called volitional karma and intended karma. So volitional and intended karma. Volitional karma is not the actions of our body and speech, but rather it is our mind, it is our volition, what we want to do, what we are thinking about doing. And so sometimes we think about things that are good, and we have a good volition, a good intention, or good volition. And sometimes we have a bad or evil volition, a harmful motivation, volition. And based upon that, we accumulate bad or good or bad karma with our minds. And so these are, in terms of our volition, they are in terms of our mind. And so we need to try to give up all of the need to try to not have the bad motivations. We need to try to encourage the good motivations, the beneficial, the benevolent motivation, the benevolent volition. And this is really quite necessary that we do that. The second type of karma is intended karma. And intended karma is the karma that we do with the karma or actions that we do with our body and speech. And so first we have volition in our mind, and that makes us want to do something. We intend to do something, and then we do what we have intended with our body and our speech. And now there are two types of this. It can be either virtuous or non-virtuous. We can, if we have a good motivation, then we can do something good and virtuous. If we have a bad motivation, then we do something harmful and non-virtuous. And so the karma of our body and speech is, in this way, there are two types of this karma, virtuous and non-virtuous. In terms of volitional karma, there are three different types of that. And the three different types of it are virtuous, non-virtuous, and neutral. This neutral that is neither virtuous nor non-virtuous. And so the virtuous karma with the virtuous volitional karma is when we have a kind heart, a kind motivation, when we wish to help someone, when we are benevolent, when we have compassion or faith or devotion. So these are benevolent and kind, helpful states of mind, and as a result of them, we accumulate the good karma with our mind, this good volitional karma. But we can also have non-virtuous volitional karma, and this non-virtuous karma is when we have like malice or hatred or anger, jealousy, or the thought, any thought that makes us want to hurt someone else or harm another being. These are all non-virtuous karmas. And then there are also karmas that are neutral. These karmas that are neutral are neither virtuous nor non-virtuous, but rather these are the thought of, I need to go someplace, I need to eat, I need to do this, that, or that. And these are the things that we think we need to do that are really neither virtuous nor non-virtuous. And so in this way, we need to accomplish, or we need to practice virtue with our mind. And we need to give up the non-virtue. And with the neutral thoughts, we need to look at them and examine them. And those that are beneficial, those that are beneficial to us, then we need to do. And those that are not beneficial, we should not do.
Tene ta tejendo somba lungo kelela ya ta number som ta tige semba hijele giwa la tene ta tige kunte lungo ketento tene yana tene range kun number top go ni tene ngok go ni kecha nyembar he pata zangbo he pata pensem tang dembe go ni he pa la so pata bo gewa Tejendo luji go ni yin la pemba se pata longje go ni yin la pemba se pa la so pa go ni tene te somba lungo le gewa Rela, tene gewa te kase tutu ga longlin la tar tup na tene gewin reba te dewa yinpe chena rangin kanga la pemba jungi yapa chay tang tene te yendo yang senpa yi chile te migewa la tene chay nga jaral tang trado tong nesem la so pe go ne so chepa tang majimba lemba tang la so pe ke sawa nyemba ten so tsom na tene te ge go ne dipa migewa so ne tat nekap rangin kanga la nepa chal ju yapa chay tang tartu tene legend reba nyemba minju yapa yinpe cher na tene gedik longdor se gewa ke sempa hijile gewa yinayanda somba lungo ke le gewa yinayanda tene te kase tutug longlin la tar tu bachay te lot lin tu bachay te gewa te lot longu bachay ta tene migewa te pangu bachay tene somba sempa hijile yinayanda somba lungo ke le yinayanda tene te migewa ke rei te pangu pang ne tene te tanda kapka la sembe ki tena lena ya somba lungo ke lege tendo male pache tene rab de chona semba yiji lege kapsula ya male pache top na te la yoni yondo ta tige gewa lani se pe penta dipa me gewa lan ju pe nimi tenzo yapo je hina tene rangin ke gedik te londro se ge yore la tene londro se je te kalche ge yore
The karma of our body and speech is also in three types. And so from our virtuous mental volitional karma, then we do actions with our body and speech. And so we have a virtuous volition, a mental volition to do something nice or to say something nice. And so we say pleasant words. We say something nice, helpful, beneficial, and something that is helpful to someone. And likewise, we have from a virtuous mental volition, we do things with our bodies or with our possessions. We use them to accomplish virtue. And so we should do these as much as we can. We should try to maintain virtuous mental volition in order to benefit other beings. And then as much as we do this, this will naturally lead to virtuous karma of our body and speech. And so we should try to keep this in mind and always try with our mental volition and with the actions of our body and speech to be virtuous. We also have non-virtuous mental volition. And when we have non-virtuous mental volitions such as hatred or anger or jealousy or some malice or any other non-virtuous volition, then we end up doing non-virtuous things like killing or like taking what is not given, or stealing, or various other non-virtuous actions with our body and speech. We will say harsh words and create pain and harm through our body and speech. And as a result of that, that karma will ripen upon us, and we will experience the results of that karma. And so it is important that we know the difference between virtue and non-virtue. And it is important that we take up the virtue and that we give up the non-virtue as much as we can. So as much as you possibly can with your mental volition, you should try to accomplish virtue. You should try to have a virtuous volition. And then on the basis of that, you should try to do as much virtuous body and speech karma as you can. And this will naturally bring you a happy result. Likewise, we need to give up the harmful volition of the mind, and give up the non-virtuous volition, and also the non-virtuous karma of our bodies and speech. And if we give those up, then we will not experience the suffering that would result for them. And so if we know what we should take up and what we should give up, then naturally we will do that. We will naturally take up what we should and give up what we should give up. And so for that reason, it is very important to think about what we should take up and what we should give up.
Tene ta telaya chitang le gewa da me gewa singite tene chitang sanji chika nawa na yin de gewa re so go re de me gewa re pang go re so ma ba tene tangbo semba yiji le ge tene semba zangbo pensem don samba yakbo go ne njuba je da njuba yin na gewa yin ba je da tene samba ngemba ne sem da yin la tene ta je yin la ne be samba ta bo ko ngemba la tene chuma te la me gewa ta semba yiji le tene samba te rimba yin la semba hiji le gewa ina ti samba lungo ge le ge la gewa la rimji juk to panda boda tene samba semba hiji le de me gewa ina samba lungo ge le de rang yin ji me gewa la juk ro yin bi na ta te ta tangbo ngarang chu semji dai ni pong ni ya po si semji dai ni te hi tong pa ye te ne tene semba hiji le gewa ge chu la lot length ba je da tene me gewa chu la juk ma shoro wa je tene te tabu tai ne ta semba te la ye semba hiji le de ya po ji chona te samba lungo ge le de rang yin ji nyon ji ro yin bi na te tabu ge di londor la zeng go yo re tene te ya ta tanda take nang so na le jun de londor 타입 내장 히버스네 라버사 성요를 드니테 힌도 타와 게와 춘춘리 디크훈 타와 춘춘리 디히도 팽게 마레 선반다보 마임바 게와 춘춘이 나요 서 디바 춘춘이 나요 뽕 드니 디바 게와 침보 있나요 서 디바 침보 있나요 빵데 라네네 동보 히버스 드니테 로드 렌트 바고 그래서
So we need to know what is the difference between virtuous and non-virtuous karma. But this is not something that we should just take and say, oh, the Buddha said that this is virtuous and the Buddha said that this is non-virtuous. It is not something that we should just do from that way, but rather it is something where we need to look at our volition. We need to look at our minds and we need to see, is my mind a kind mind? Is it a benevolent mind? Is it one that wishes to help people? Is it one that is going to be virtuous? Or we need to look at our minds, and if it is one that is like that, then it is a virtuous mind. Or we need to look and see, is my volition base or evil volition? Is this do I have malice in my mind? Do I have the wish to harm someone else? Is this some sort of a base volition in my mind? And if it is a base volition in your mind, then it is non-virtuous. And then from that virtuous volition that you might have, you can might engage in the actions of body and speech, and thus act on virtue. And from the non-virtuous, from the non-virtuous volition, then you would engage in non-virtuous actions. And so it is important to know the difference and then to meditate upon it primarily in your mind. And so first, we need to keep track of it in our mind, and we need to give up the harmful non-virtuous volition, harmful thoughts in our mind. And we need to take up all of the virtuous, all of the beneficial and benevolent volitions in our mind. And so it is important that we thus first be diligent about this in this way. And so it is said in all the instructions that we need to know how to train in karma this way. Now, in these instructions in particular, it is said in particular that for that reason, knowing what to give up and what to take up and what to give up for karma, cause, and effect, both fine and coarse, then we need to train in it. And so what this is saying is that we should not think to ourselves, oh, that's just some little tiny, fine little non-virtuous thing. It's okay if I let that go. We shouldn't think to ourselves that way. Rather, we should be very fine and very careful about it. We should always rely on mindfulness, awareness, and carefulness in our minds in order to avoid doing anything harmful. We should rely on the mindfulness, awareness, and carefulness to always do anything virtuous. No matter how small that virtue might be, we should do it. No matter how small the misdeed might be, we should not do it. Likewise, no matter how large the virtue might be, we should try to do it. And no matter how large the non-virtue might be, we should not do it. And so this is how we should train in the karma, cause, and effect.
Tene tatige tanda gomo la matapa gombata lejundi gombate hyperella tene teya chitanga ngundu gond sete tene ngundola tene matapa gombata lejundi gombate nangi yore te nawa te yapore te inaya te ngundu tang sarne tene yoga janda bo maimpa tuda number jundo matapa te yang temperature na tini temperature la kulmata zendruyong ala tene tini temperature chu nrup ke jorn ro yo ba jaita temperature nyang len tup ke jorn ro yo ba jaita tini legende te kalchewa re samba tenkahi mainpa tuda number junto tangboni hi tini te yang se tene ta ngaranso misig netang la tene tande geware lord lengu re de megeware tati semgeten kulhonda bo yinayanda lungo gjelon yinayanda de megeware telazaza sigugre somne tene tujundo tenhi tena inji minji megewa majena ngaranso mese mendrowa 제다 되네 개와 줍나 나랑서 메시지 집보면 와지 자니 요 말해라 되니 되게 개와티 줍나 되니 멜란 틀람니야 봐 삼바장보이야 봐 강갈란 투바메 봐 야보용이야 봐 대진도 디바 메게와티 빵나 되니 메시지를 집보용이야 봐 제 뇨다다 강가다 파치라소파 미용와 디추게티네 마인 반지팅게티네야 되니 데보다 야본도기와라 되니 데탐비 추다 담바세베게 쳇돌라 레전데티 테나.
And so this is the discussion of the meditation upon impermanence and the meditation on karma, cause, and effect. And these are things that generally we meditate upon when we do the preliminary practices. And of course that is really quite good. but these are meditations that we should not just put aside when we are done with our preliminary practices. Rather, they are things that we should continue to meditate upon. We need to meditate upon impermanence always and in all circumstances. And if we do that, then it will cause us to be diligent about our Dharma practice. It will become the cause for us to actually attain results in our practice. It is the cause for us to be able to practice, and so we need to always contemplate it. Likewise, karma, cause, and effect is something that we need to know from the beginning. We need to know what is virtue and what is not virtue, what to do and what not to do, what to give up. And we need to keep careful look on our minds and on our volitions and see that we have a good volition, that we are benevolent, wishing to help. And be kind to other people. And then if we do that, or that we need to be careful about this or about another type of volition. And so if we do that, then we should then be careful about our actions of body and speech and make sure that we're always acting in a way that's kind and helpful and gentle. And we also need to know that there are things we need to be careful about with our body and speech. And so in this way, we need to always rely on mindfulness, awareness, and carefulness to make sure that our volitions and that our actions of body, speech are kind and going for virtue. Now you might think to yourself that if you always are trying to do things always trying to do virtuous things and always give up non-virtuous things, that in worldly terms that you won't get what you need, or that you won't have any fun, or that life won't go well or anyway. But actually this is not the case. If you always have a virtuous motivation, a motivation of kindness and wanting to help people, and then you act out of that, you act in ways that are kind and helpful, then this is something that will make you get along with people. You will have good friends, you will have good happiness, and everything will go smoothly for you. This will be very good for you. On the other hand, if you have a harmful motivation, any malice or ill will in your motivation, and you act out of that in harmful ways, then that would be harmful for you. And so giving up the malice, giving up the ill will, and giving up the actions of your evil actions of your body and speech are ways to make sure that you won't have many enemies. You will not have any difficulties. There will be fewer problems in your life. Fewer difficulties will arise. And so for this reason, it is very important in worldly terms as well to practice virtue with your mind and with your body and speech, and to give up non-virtue with your mind and with your body and speech. And so for this reason, this is in accord with the Dharma, it agrees with the Dharma, and it is also a very good way to live in this world.
Tene ta togong gchuntin tezam shona ten togong tangaran su chaji ta to tangbo jamju damba te nangi la ten jamju damba shungin te ha dong pe na ro che.
We will leave our Dharma session here for this afternoon. Now, as has been announced, we are having the Refuge and Bodhisattva vows this afternoon. So first, will all of those who are requesting the Refuge vows please come up to the front.